Welcome to We in Lewes, a podcast dedicated to celebrating the remarkable, creative, and energetic people who live in Lewes and are helping our community forge a collective soul as appealing as it is unique. I'm your host, Kevin McGuiness, joined today by Steve Esfandiari, our unflappable engineer and the proverbial calm in the storm, and Matt DiSabatino, our good and gracious friend, and even more importantly for the podcast, our landlord. For reasons Steve and I still don't understand, he's allowed us to record our episodes for free at the bar of his restaurant, Kindle. We record in the morning and the bar is closed, but still, it's a beautiful setting. And come on, there's something soothing about recording amidst so much elegance and liquor. Today marks our 50th episode, a number the three of us never even considered when we started this podcast back in May 2023. If we're going to be honest, none of us had any idea whether our idea for a podcast would work. We weren't enthusiastic podcast listeners. None of us had been on one. As my father would have said, we were unburdened by knowledge, expertise, or a logical premise for a show. I'm guessing one of us would have taken the under on 5 episodes total. We aren't famous, well, except for Matt. This wouldn't be a show with cool celebrities talking about other cool celebrities. We wouldn't be solving mysteries or investigating ancient ruins. Politics and politicians aren't allowed. And we weren't going to focus on a singular popular interest like deep-sea fishing, pickleball, or crafting. There'd be no obvious hook. Instead, we wanted to focus on a very small town in the smallest, population-wise, state east of the Mississippi. Lewes, the city, as opposed to Lewes, the zip code, has an estimated population of 3,800, so long as you're counting pets. There are high schools in California with more students than Lewes has residents. We also knew Lewes is not the proverbial city on a hill. It's not a real-life version of Sea Haven Island, the fake city in the movie The Truman Show. It has issues just like every town in the U.S. It has problems with traffic and congestion. People feel strongly about national and local issues. It can be as cliquey as a high school cafeteria. Working with City Hall can be frustrating. On the other hand, we do say hello to others in town and smile, even if we don't know who they are. Neighbors help neighbors for free. And then there's a location. Lewes is located right at the point where the Atlantic Ocean meets the Delaware Bay. We have beaches, a canal that splits the city, and a beautiful state park. Of course, this also means that we have a 3-month summer tourist season and the joys and headaches that come with that. Lewes has far more going for it than geography. It has an inappropriate large number of interesting, active, creative people who, collectively and independently, are helping shape the feel and culture of our community. They're doing this without coordination. There's no monthly cool person planning meeting. At least I think there isn't. Matt? Oh, good. There isn't. It just evolves naturally. The number of interesting people is growing. And Lewes has a shocking percentage of its population involved in the city. Civic pride is off the charts. Obviously, other towns have interesting people and people committed to their communities who've had successful and exciting careers. But there's something going on here that feels different, almost unique. Lewes has a nationally recognized history book festival, which routinely attracts best-selling authors. It has a citywide beautification organization that has won international awards. If New York City had a proportional number of people involved in this kind of community effort, there would be over 1 million people working every week creating, caring, and enhancing the Big Apple's beauty. The Lewes Public Library is more a community center with books, hosting 1,400 events each year that attract over 40,000 people. And they still have time to lend out books from their collection of 54,000 volumes. Each of these organizations would be in jeopardy without its own volunteer army, as would the other 70 or so nonprofit organizations in town. That's right, 70. It's a common joke to say people move and retire here to volunteer. Yes, Lewes has a story worth telling, and we wanted to provide a platform to tell it. And we wanted to see if by doing so, we could shed some light on the obvious question. Why? Why is this happening? Why are so many creative, energetic, civic-oriented people drawn to Lewes? We've had guests on the podcast who are the creators of nationally recognized businesses, successful small businesses, and beloved local restaurants and stores. We've had former government officials involved in work ranging from the Peace Corps to the CIA. We've got to meet artists and philanthropists, professors and teachers, and men and women who've dedicated their lives to helping others be treated fairly. We've had doctors, historians, and volunteers. So many volunteers. Interestingly, what we haven't had on the show are politicians, political discussions, or, come to think of it, lawyers. The first two are prohibited by podcast rule. The third, I guess, natural selection. We've had guests who ignore conventional wisdom and courageously pursue their own dreams, and thank God they did. We've had guests who received the perfect advice at a critical point in their lives, from family, friends, even strangers, and had the humility to follow it to our collective benefit. We've had guests who revealed personal philosophies that are as profound as they are liberating. And we've had guests who shared the blessings and importance of friendship and how to have fun, no matter your age. Two of our guests gave us insight into new perspectives on life. One talked about the atomic nature of people and the impact that realization will have over time on our understanding of health. The other provided insight into the debate over unidentified anomalous phenomenon, what we used to call UFOs. He talked about who may be on Earth with us and why the answer poses difficult questions involving science, quantum physics, metaphysics, and religion. Our nearly 50 guests, some interviews were spread over 2 episodes, have been entertaining, educational, and thought-provoking. We can't thank our guests enough for being part of the podcast, for their candor, their stories, advice, and humor. Given who they are and what they've accomplished, we're still shocked they even took our calls, let alone agreed to be interviewed. It's certainly not for our speaking fees, there are none, or the free drinks and amazing food at our annual holiday party for guests. We're so cheap, we even turned that party into an episode. I think it's because, on some level, they agree with our feelings about the town. So again, what's the attraction here? Is it something in the water, the air? Can a town have a vibe or a magnetic pull? We have theories, but no definitive answer. We do know, however, that if you come for a visit, it's likely you'll feel something at work here, something capable of attracting you and other remarkable people, people who are as engaged as they are curious. To find the answer, you can't overlook the obvious fact that similar people have been here for a while and have been building the community spirit that kindred souls are finding unique and appealing. Like does attract like. Secondly, there is the obvious civic pride or shared sense of civic responsibility. Many people in Lewes are involved in one or multiple nonprofit organizations or similar public service activities. Given the numbers compared to the town's population, this leads to an inescapable, positive connectivity that probably be far more difficult in a much larger city. We tend to know each other, or at least of each other. Earlier this year, a man stopped me on the street and complained that all we do on this podcast is focus on the good. You aren't addressing what's wrong, he said. You aren't broadcasting the mistakes and issues that are overwhelming our daily lives. You're ignoring a lot. I tried to explain that the podcast is not a newspaper or a radio or a television show. We're not a court. We're trying to offer something different, to push back on the negative and give a little oxygen to the positive. We share real stories about friends, neighbors, and people around town who are navigating their way through life with success and interest. In many instances, they were drawn to this committee, and by being here, are helping enrich our town and, over time, attract others. We do our best to make each episode interesting and entertaining. If we're lucky, it might also be a little educational and enable listeners to learn more about the guests and themselves. And if we're really lucky, our listeners may be reminded of the good in this town and what convinced them to move or stay here in the first place. Recently, there have been calls for a more civilized public debate in this country, where we can disagree over a policy or position but still maintain a common bond of respect, or at least tolerance. Most agree with that sentiment. The challenge is how. Lewes may have stumbled upon a possible solution, at least on a small-town scale. Maybe reducing the anger, the fear, and the hate starts with getting to know others in the community, where they came from, what they're having to deal with or overcome, or just getting to encounter others, even if remotely. Hopefully, the podcast can help make all of us be seen more as individuals than stereotypes. The chances for this to happen are augmented by that connectivity I just mentioned. As we've all learned at some point, it's hard to get too upset with someone when debating border policy when you know that the two of you are going to have to get up at the crack of dawn and together get on your hands and knees in the dirt because it's your turn to clean up the flower beds in Stango Park. We hope that's the case. To our surprise, something unexpected is also happening with the podcast. Today, our podcast ranks in the top 25% of all podcasts in the United States and has been downloaded in 950 cities spread over 46 countries. Imagine, people are listening not just in Lewes, but also in Germany, New Zealand, Turkey, and Singapore, to name but a few. There are people around the world that may not have heard about Lewes or know how to pronounce its name, but have chosen to join our celebration. As of today, almost half of our listeners don't even live in Delaware. Maybe our stories are touching a chord elsewhere. That, my friends, is mind-boggling and encouraging. Thank you to our sponsors who help us make ends meet, for the generous support of the sister restaurants Kindle and Half Full and the Leanne Wilkinson Group. They've kept us afloat and kept our expenses to a manageable minimum. And a special thanks to one other key component, you. Occasionally or not, by listening, you become part of our show. Your comments have helped shape it. Your support has kept us going. Ever asked yourself why you're listening? Maybe you too share our feelings about what's happening in this town, why it should be celebrated, or the message it's providing. We never forget for a moment that without your willingness to listen, without your courage to spread the word about the show, this podcast would have ended a long time ago. We hope one day we can find an appropriate way to thank each and every one of you. We may have some ideas, but more on that in the future. This podcast was never intended to be a money-making proposition. It isn't, and never will be, at least cash-wise. It will always be free. But the three of us are far richer for it. We've had a lot of fun, met amazing people, and made some incredible new friends. And one more thing. It's given us what we call the Lewes Masterclass on Life. At the risk of sounding like a credit card ad, that's been priceless. We hope if we're lucky, we'll be able to share another 50 episodes with you. We now know the three of us will run out of gas long before Lewes runs out of interesting people. And maybe that's the best proof of everything I've been saying. There really is something special happening here. Okay, enough. We'll be back soon with a normal, regular interview. On behalf of our engineer extraordinaire, Steve Esfandiari, our landlord and coach, Matt DiSabatino, this has been your host, Kevin McGuiness, saying thank you. Thank you. Till next time, from our recording studio that some continue to believe is the bar at Kindle, this has been We in Lewes, the podcast.